So we'll start off by making our 2 panels, which are just going to be 2 large granny squares. To start off the granny square panel, grab whatever color you want to begin with and make a magic circle. I'm just doing this in slow motion for anybody who doesn't necessarily know how to do one. Okay, going to insert the hook. And then I'm just going to grab this bit right here to make sure it doesn't unravel and chain 1. Bam, there we go. Okay, magic circle done. So after we have that, I'm going to chain up 2 more. So we now have a chain of 3. And this is going to count as our first double crochet. So we now want to make 2 more double crochets in the magic circle. So I'll insert 1 and 2. Okay, we want to chain up 1. And now we're going to make 3 more magic circles, 3 more double crochets in the magic circle. And 3. Then we're going to chain 1 and repeat that 2 more times. So we're going to have a total of 4 clusters of 3 double crochet, followed by a chain 1 in the middle of each. When you get to the end, make sure you're ending on a chain 1, and then we are going to pull the tail end of our magic circle to close it up. Okay, and we're going to pretend that this piece isn't already cut. So after that, we want to slip stitch into the top of the chain 3 to join the round. So 1, 2, 3. Okay, and I want to make sure that I'm picking up the V, so the front and the back loops of that chain 3. So 1, oops, and 2. So it's going to look something like that. It just makes your work a little bit neater. Okay, and then I'm going to slip stitch all of this. Maybe. All right. Once you have that, you're going to chain 1. It's hard to work with the yarn I cut. Okay, so you'll chain 1, you'll cut your work just like I did, and then pull it through. Okay, so this is the end of round 1. For round 2, we're going to be changing color. So what I'm going to do first is flip over my round 1 so that we're working on the back side of round 1. And we're actually going to flip our work after every round. So I'm going to insert my hook into any one of these 4 chain 1 spaces, but I'm going to insert mine right here. Then with my second color yarn, I've already made a slip knot. So I'm just going to place that on my hook and pull it through the chain 1. All right, now we're going to chain up 3 to attach the yarn to the project. All right, and that will count as our first double crochet. Now I'm going to make 2 more double crochets in the same chain 1 space. So 1, 2, and then I'm going to chain up 2 and make 3 more double crochets all in this same chain 1 space. Okay, so it should look something like this. Now you're going to chain 1, and we're going to repeat what we just did in this corner over in this next chain 1 space. So we'll make 3 double crochets. I'm also weaving in this end right here, as you can see. So 1, 2, 3. Then we'll chain 2 and make 3 more double crochets all in that same chain 1 space. Then after that, we'll chain 1, and that chain 1 is just kind of helping us to skip over these little clusters right here. And then I'm going to repeat this last corner in the last 2 chain 1 spaces. So once you're back at the very end, I'll meet you and we'll finish off round 2. So as you can see in the last chain 1 space, I finished this off with a chain 1 to skip over this cluster. And we are now going to slip stitch into the top of that chain 3, just like we did in round 1. So slip stitch, I'll chain 1, and because I'm changing color again, I cut my yarn, so I'm just going to pull that through and finish off this round 2. So you should have 4 corners now for your round 2 with 3 double crochets, 2 chains, and 3 double crochets, all in those chain 1 spaces. For round 3, we're again going to flip our work over so that we are working on the back of round 2. Now I'm going to insert my hook into the chain 1 space where we just left off on round 2. So I'll insert it into this chain 1 space. Then with my third color and a slip knot already made, I'm going to place that on my hook and pull it through the chain 1 space. Now to attach the yarn, we're going to chain up 3. And in this chain 1 space, we're going to make a total of 3 double crochets. That chain 3 counts as our first one, so I'm going to make 2 more double crochets. And as you can see, I am also weaving in this end right here. So 1, 2. Okay, now you're going to chain 1, and right here we've reached this chain 2, which is our corner. So that means we are going to repeat the corner, which is 3 double crochets, 2 chains, and 3 more double crochets, all in this chain 2 space. So again, making sure to bring up that little tail, I'll make 3 crochets. I'm sorry, 3 double crochets. Okay, we're going to chain 2 and then make 3 more double crochets, all in that same chain 2 space. Once we're done with that, we'll chain 1, and then in the chain 1 space right here, we're going to make just 3 double crochets. So 1, 2, and 3. Then we'll chain 1, and now we've reached another chain 2 space, so we're going to repeat this right here. So 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets, all in this same corner. And you are going to repeat the same thing for each chain 2 space as well as each chain 1 space all the way around round 3. To finish off round 3, you want to make sure that you're ending on a chain 1 and then slip stitch into the top of that chain 3 at the beginning. Okay, so then we will chain up 1, and your round 3 should look something like this. So we'll have 4 corners, all of which will have 3 double crochets, 2 chains, and 3 double crochets in the previous chain 2 space. Then in each chain 1 space from the previous round, we will be making 3 double crochets, all followed by chain 1s all the way around. So for round 4, I'm actually not going to change color, so I'm going to leave this as it is. I'm still going to flip my work so that we are working on the back of that round 3. And I'm going to slip stitch into this chain 1 right here. So I'll insert my hook, oops, yarn over, pull through, and then I will chain up 3 to get started on round 4. All right, so round 4 is going to be worked pretty much the same way as round 3. So wherever you see a chain 1 space, you're going to place 3 double crochets. Wherever you see the chain 2 space, you're going to make a corner. So this chain 3 will count as our first double crochet. So we'll make 2 more double crochets in the same chain 1 space. Okay, then we'll chain 1, again to skip over those clusters. I see a chain 2 space, so I'm going to make 3 double crochets. Followed by 1, 2 chains, and then 3 more double crochets, all in that same chain 2 space. Okay, we will chain 1 to skip over this cluster, and now we have a chain 1 space, so we're just going to make 3 double crochets. Okay, chain 1, another chain 1 space, so we'll make 3 double crochets, chain 1, and we're back to that chain 2 space, so another corner. So you're just going to keep repeating this all the way around until you get back to the beginning. At the end of round 4, make sure you're leaving off on a chain 1, and then you want to slip stitch into the top of that chain 3 from the very beginning of this round. Okay, then chain up 1, and if you're changing color here, you just cut your work and pull it through, but I am also going to make one more row of this light brown, so I'm going to keep my yarn as it is. So this is the end of round 4. Again, in each chain 2 corner space from the previous round, we made another corner, so 3 double crochets, 2 chains and 3 double crochets. Then in each chain 1 from the previous round, we made 3 double crochets, and in between each of these little clusters, we chained 1. So this is how our pattern is going to work from now on. You're just going to continue doing this until you reach a panel of your a panel size of your choosing. I don't know. So just to keep repeating this last row until you have reached an appropriate size, and make sure after every round that you are flipping your work over so you're always working on the back of the previous round. Now once you're completely done with your first panel, all you're going to do is repeat all of these steps for your second panel. So once you are done with both, come on back and we will start seaming this all together. So you should now be done with both of your panels. So now we're going to seam these up on the shoulders and on the sides. So we're essentially making a vest next. But I found the easiest way to determine where you want your seams to be is simply just to take one of your panels and place it against your body like so. Ta-da! So something like that. Now as you can see, I've already placed little stitch markers. So for my neck hole, I wanted it to be about this wide. And then for my arm holes, the width of my arms, I wanted them to be about, it was right about here, right in the middle, so about that wide. So it's kind of hard to show you guys, but I will show you in the next scene just exactly where I put everything, and then I'll put up some basic measurements for all the other sizes. So let's get right into that. Now for my neck, I placed my stitch markers 1, 2, 3, 4 double crochet clusters over on each side. And that ended up making the neck hole a little over 7 inches long, or wide, I guess. And then for my little armholes right here, I went up 7 double crochet clusters. So the arm width is just about 8 inches wide. And I pretty much just placed my stitch marker right smack dab in the middle of my panel. So that is my measurements for a size small. I made the neck hole about 7 inches and the arms about 8 inches wide. So for the other sizes, I'll post up some general measurements for you guys. But again, I just recommend doing what I showed you previously to get your stitch marker placement. So let's get right on to sewing up all of these ends, sides, all of that good stuff. So we're going to be working on the shoulder seam first, and all we're going to be doing is slip stitching in each stitch all the way down to that stitch marker, making sure to work in the front loop only on the front panel and the back loop only on the back panel. So as you can see, I've already made a slip knot on my hook and I'm using the same white yarn. So we're going to start this in the second chain in this chain 2 space. So 1, 2. Now I'm going to insert into the front loop only of this chain, And then I'll find the corresponding chain on the back panel, and I'll insert into the back loop of that chain only. Then I'm just going to slip stitch through all 3 of the loops that are on my hook. Okay, so now we're going to repeat the slip stitch in each stitch all the way until we reach the stitch marker. So we'll get that out of the way. In the next stitch, we'll insert into the front loop only. Then on the corresponding stitch on the back panel, we'll insert into the back loop only. Then we'll just slip stitch that all together. Okay, next stitch we'll do the same thing. Insert into the front loop only. And then on the back side, next stitch, back loop only. Okay, and you're just going to continue doing that all the way down. Front and back. Oh, also, when you reach these little chain 1s, you'll do the same exact thing. So you're just going to insert into the front loop only of the chain on the front panel and the back loop only of the chain on the back panel. Okay, so continue doing that all the way down. So I've just come up to my stitch marker here, so I'm going to take it out, and then we'll finish in this last stitch. So again, insert into the front loop only on the front panel, back loop only on the back panel, slip stitch, and then you're going to chain up 1, grab your scissors, cut off a bit of a tail, and then pull on through. So that is going to be the first half of our shoulders. So you're just going to repeat what we did on this shoulder over on the other shoulder. All right, so once you're done with the shoulders, come on back, and then we'll get started on the sides. So we're working our sides in the exact same way as well. So we're just going to make this seam using slip stitches all the way down to our little stitch marker here. So as you can see, this is my seamed shoulder. So I'm going to be starting at the opposite end down here. Again, we'll start in the second chain in this chain 2 little space right here. And again, we're also going to insert our hook into just the front loop only on the front panel and the back loop only on the back panel. I'm still using the same white yarn with the slip knot already on my hook. So we'll find the same chain on the back panel, insert into that back loop only, and then slip stitch through everything. And we're just going to slip stitch all the way down until we reach this stitch marker, working in the front loop only of the front panel and the back loop only of the back panel. So it's really the exact same thing that we did on our shoulders, just working on the sides. I've reached that stitch marker, so I'm going to take it out and finish up this seam, the last chain. Okay, so now that I'm done with that seam, I will chain 1, grab my scissors, leave a bit of a tail, cut, and then pull through. All right, so I will just repeat this on the opposite side, and then once we do that, we will be done seaming together the whole of the top. So now everything should be all seamed. Okay, so I got both seams on these sides. So what I recommend now is just try it on and see how it fits first, and then we'll go from there. So once you put it on, it should look a little something like this. Okay, so you see how it's off the shoulder just a little bit. So now let's move on to making the rest of the sleeves. And if you want, you can even stop here too. Whatever you want. All right, let's get started. So to get started on the arms, the first thing you need to do is make sure that you have flipped your project right side out. So make sure that your seam is on the inside of your project. Now grab whatever color yarn you want to start with, doesn't really matter. And make sure that you're working on the armhole. So these arms are going to be super simple. We're just going to be doing rows of granny stripes all the way until you want to be finished with your arm. So I'm first going to start by placing my hook. This is the seam right here. So I'll place my hook in the chain 1 space on the left hand side of the seam. All right, so I'm going to yarn over, pull through, and then I'm going to chain up 3. Oops. So that's 1, 2, and 3. And that is going to count as our first double crochet. So now I'm going to make 2 more double crochets in the same chain 1 space. So 1 and 2. Okay, so now we're going to chain 1 to skip over this little cluster here, and then we'll make 3 double crochets in the next chain 1 space. 1, 2, and 3. Then you'll chain 1, and then continue making 3 double crochets in each of the chain 1 spaces all the way around this arm, making sure to make a chain 1 after every 3 double crochets. All right, so I'll meet you at the end. So when we actually reach our little shoulder seam right here, I do something a little bit different. So you see here is a chain 1 space, and here is also a chain 1 space. Now what I do up top here is I'm actually going to make 2 double crochets in this chain 1 space and 1 double crochet in this chain 1 space, just to kind of make it like one cluster up top. So, ooh, geez. So I'll make 1, 2, and then going into that next chain 1 space, I will make 3. Okay, and then we'll just chain 1 and continue doing the same thing all the way around the arm. Now we've reached that last chain 1 space, so I will make 3 double crochets. Chain 1, and then we are going to slip stitch into the top of that chain 3 at the beginning of the round. Okay, slip stitch. And I'm going to change color, so what I do is chain 1, cut my work, which I've already done, and then just pull that right on through. And I'm actually going to be changing every round in the arms. So you don't have to change your color, but I am. Now what we're going to do is again flip our work like we did on those granny squares, and I'm going to grab my second color, make a little slip knot, and we're really just going to be repeating what we did from the first round. So I'm going to go back in that very same chain 1 space that we just completed round 1 with. I'm going to insert my hook, put the second color on my hook like so. Pull that through the chain 1 space. We will chain up 3, 1, 2, 3, and now I'll make 2 more single crochets in this chain 1 space. So 1 and 2. Okay, then we'll chain 1. I'm gonna weave in this light brown end as well. And then in the next chain 1 space, we will make 3 double crochets. You're just going to continue with the pattern all the way around this round. So we'll chain 1 and make 3 more double crochets in the next chain 1 space. So I'll meet you guys back at the end. Now I've reached the end of the second round, so as you can see I've got my chain 1 on my hook, so I'm going to slip stitch into the top of that chain 3 from the beginning of the round, and then chain up 1. Now I'm going to change my color again. Like I said, I'm changing every row, so what you do is you cut your yarn and you would pull that through. But if you are making every row the same color, what I recommend is with that chain 1 on your hook, you flip your work, and then you're just going to slip stitch into this chain 1 space like so, chain up 3, and then do the exact same thing we've been doing. It's just like the same on the granny square. But again, like I said, I'm changing color, so I'll pull that through, grab my third color, which is white. And then again, I am turning, so we're turning our sleeve every round. All right, so I'm working on the opposite end, and I'm going to insert my hook into the chain 1 space where I just left off. So insert my hook, grab my slip knot, pull that through, chain up 3 to attach, and then we are going to repeat round 2 until you reach whatever arm length you desire. So for me, I'm going to be making a total of 12 rows of this granny stripe. 12 rounds. So once I'm done with that, and once you're done with your sleeve, come on back and I'll show you how to finish it off. So this is my completed first sleeve. I had a total of 12 rows of the granny stripes, and it's just about 7 inches long. So this is kind of like a short sleeve shirt. Now, of course, you can keep going with this to make your sleeve a little longer, but I'm gonna stop here. So now that you have completed your first sleeve, we're just gonna move right on over to the other armhole and repeat all of these steps. So you should now be done with both of your sleeves. Disregard all of the ends that I have to weave in, okay? So essentially you're done with your top. The only thing that I'm going to do is make a row of single crochets or a round of single crochets down here at the bottom just to kind of finish it up. You could also do this up at the neck, but it's going to give the neck a little bit of height, so it will look different if you make a row of single crochets up here. So let's move on to the bottom and finish up this top. Now you can start your bottom round at either seam. I'm just going to start mine at this seam right here. And we're going to insert our hook into the first chain, or the chain on the right hand side of the seam. So I'm going to insert my hook right here, and I'll insert through the front and back loops of the chain. Okay, I'm going to make this round also in white, so I've got a slip knot here. I'm just going to pull it through that chain. Okay, and then I'm going to chain up 1, and our chain 1 is not going to count as a stitch, so I'll make my first single crochet in this first chain right here. All right, so now that we've reached this seam, I'm going to make my single crochet in the slip knot right here that joins the seam together. So right here. I'm going to insert through that whole whole slip stitch, and then make 1 single crochet. All right, now in the chain on the left side of the seam, we'll do the same thing. So we'll just insert a hook and make 1 single crochet. And we're just going to make 1 single crochet through each chain and each stitch all the way around this bottom edge right here. So as you can see, our first stitch, just make a single crochet, and I'm just weaving in this little tail end as well. So continue making single crochets in each stitch and each chain space, or I'm sorry, each chain. We're not going to go through the space, we'll go through the actual chain, and do that all the way around your top. And once you reach the other corner right here, the other seam, do the exact same thing that I just did on this seam over on the opposite one. So once you are at the end, come on back and we will finish up this round. Now I've just got back to the very beginning of this round, so I'm going to slip stitch into that first single crochet from the round. All right, so now we'll chain 1, grab our scissors, cut, and pull through. All right. So that's what the border looks like. Again, nothing fancy. I just wanted to kind of help keep these seams together a little better, make them look a little more cohesive. So the only thing you have left to do is weave in all of your ends and you will be done with this top. Okay, so this is the finished top. This is such a quick and easy project to make. It's perfect for beginners, and it only took me about 3 to 4 hours to complete the whole top. So with that, this video is now coming to an end. So I hope you guys have a great day and stay tuned for more videos. Bye.